Nourish the roots of your existence, and everything else in life will flourish. So what are the roots of human existence? Well, we seem to have conscious awareness. And for that to happen, we need to breathe. We need to maintain core body temperature. We need to stay hydrated. We need to rest, and we need to eat some food. It's pretty simple. But to exist in that survival mode all your life is also not very fun. For us to be our full potential, humans have branched out into the infinite variety of our needs that makes life worth living. But it doesn't matter how beautiful your branches are or how juicy your fruit is. If it's not connected to strong roots in the dirt, then you'll still be toppled by the storm. So let's discuss survival skills, the human experience, and how we can use a tree to help us navigate the landscape. So stay tuned. Hi folks, how's it going? Welcome to another video on the Deep Dive channel. So, just out on a wee camping trip next to this beautiful river going through a forest. I was just wandering down the stream and I came across this bank, this eroded bank, and I just thought it was so cool. You can see obviously floodwaters has been coming here and are picking away at this bank. It's been crumbling away and you can see the many different layers of sediment. You can see the roots of the trees and then finally these trees. It's really lovely kind of cross section of what's going on the earth there. And yeah, just walking past it inspired me to share a lesson with you folks from my school, Resilient Roots, my survival school. Now, I'm sure many, if you've been following my work for a while, you've heard me say it many times, the reason why I'm obsessed with wilderness survival skills is because it forces you to simplify life right down to its absolute basics. And from there, that gives you strong foundations and resilience in what it actually means to be alive, from which you can build everything else in life from. And all my life I've just been obsessed with teaching people the fundamental survival skills that then can be applied back into everyday life, back into the everyday 21st century life. And this is what Resilient Roots, my survival school, is all about. It's about arming people with these timeless skills and making them applicable to everything else in life that makes life worth living. So when I was designing my school, when I was designing my curriculum, I wanted a map, a learning map to keep referring to help people navigate and to help create different modules of lessons. And because it's kind of the foundation of the school, but it's also a foundation of just all my work and the way I've been, I want to teach things here on the Deep Dive channel, I decided to share the lesson from Resilient Roots, just so folks here on the channel can always refer back to it for when I talk about it in future Deep Dive videos. So yeah, without further ado, I'll just share the lesson because I'm pretty sure I give the context needed in the lesson. But yeah, hope you enjoy it. Hope it gives you a bit of a foundation of some stuff I want to continue sharing here. Of course, if you want to dive deep, then I'll put a link to Resilient Roots in the description below. But yeah, without further ado, enjoy the lesson, folks. Welcome back. So, in this video, I want to introduce the tree of needs, which is going to be the roadmap for the rest of this course. It's going to be the roadmap of our learning journey. Now, I briefly introduced the tree of needs in the introduction video, but I wanted to go through it in a bit more detail and give you a bit more context, because really the tree of needs is a product of something I've been thinking about for over a decade. So, where did it come from? Well, I briefly mentioned in the introduction video Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I was first introduced to this pyramid of human needs in my first year at university when I did a module in psychology. Now, Abraham Maslow was a psychologist, and in 1943 he wrote a paper called Theories of Human Motivation. And in the center of a big paper full of psychological jargon was actually a very, very small diagram. But this diagram has now become famous. Now, Maslow theorized that humans are motivated by certain needs and that we only try to fulfill the next one when the one below it has been fulfilled. And he illustrated the needs that motivates humans in this pyramid. Now, right down at the base is physiological needs: air, shelter, water, food. Next is security and safety. And above that, love and belonging. The next level, self-esteem, so feeling of self-worth. And the final one, self-actualization, which is everything from meaning and purpose and sort of being who we are. Now, Maslow's theory that we're only motivated to get to our next need once we've fulfilled the one below makes sense for these first two ones. For example, you don't really care about a mean comment someone said to you, your self-esteem when you're suffocating, right? You don't really care that much about love and belonging when you're dying of thirst. You don't really care about self-actualization, about the meaning of life when you're in a war zone and you're just scared about your security. All right? So Maslow's theory is pretty strong down here. However, when it gets up here, he was criticized by the other psychologists that you can't really test this, and it's not as easy that that it's only when we feel love and belonging do we worry about self-esteem and things like that. So it's not perfect, right? It was written a long time ago. It's a bit too clunky, a bit too step by step, but there's something about this diagram that resonated with so many people and resonated with me. And you see versions of the hierarchy of needs in business and lots of TED Talks. Now, it stuck with me because I love survival, right? I'm obsessed by survival because it simplifies life right down to its absolute basics. And I realized that the reason why I feel so at peace when I'm in the woods is because priorities are so simple. In everyday life, it's really hard to know what to prioritize your attention. There's a million things demanding your attention and your decisions. But when you're out in the woods, it's really simple. I'm cold, I put on another layer. I'm thirsty, I purify water, I drink it. I'm hungry, I grab my fishing rod. I go to the loch, try catch some fish. And once you've achieved those basic needs, I found myself just feeling this great peace that I never really feel in other times in my life. So when I first saw this pyramid and I saw that physiological needs was the base, was the most important thing, it got me kind of hopeful. And it made me wonder, can I apply this basic principles? Or can I find basic principles that resonate all the way up the hierarchy, that are applicable to everyday life? So this is ultimately what this course is about: survival training for the art of living. Can we ground ourselves in the undeniable physical needs, find principles that are applicable to everything? So I like Maslow's thinking. I like his diagram. However, it's not perfect. It's a bit too clunky. It's a bit too step by step. And obviously humans are more complicated than that. So this is where I created the tree of needs. And the reason why I like a tree is because it's a living thing, right? You can't really separate the branches from the roots because they're all interconnected. And the tree is a really deep symbol in cultures all around the world, right? The tree of life. The Norse had Yggdrasil, which is their representation of the cosmos, which is this massive ash tree, and then the base of it is a serpent. And interestingly, even cultures in South America, thousands of miles away on the other side of the world, had the exact same representation of reality. A tree with a serpent going around the roots. So there's something very deep about the tree as a metaphor we can use to understand life, to use to understand the human experience. So essentially, for this course, I've translated Maslow's hierarchy of needs into a map represented by a tree. So to illustrate this, I've come to the forest. So I've translated the 5 sections of Maslow's pyramid into 5 sections of a tree. At the bottom, we have dirt survival. On top of that, root security. Then branches of belonging. Then fruit of self-esteem. And finally, at the top, sky awareness. And each detail of the tree diagram, the number of root tips, number of roots, number of branches, and number of fruits indicate the different topics, principles, and priorities we will explore for each section. Now, I'll go into detail on exactly what those topics are for each module when we get to them, but for now, I just want to give you a general overview of the Tree of Needs and share how we will use it for the rest of this course. Now, I don't want you to see the Tree of Needs as a hard fact about the human experience, because it's not. Instead, see it as a map that we will explore throughout this course. It is a way of visualizing everything we will learn in a single image and metaphor. Now, I spend a lot of time in the forest and a lot of time looking at trees. And over the years, I've seen trees be hit by every kind of hardship. I've seen them uprooted by storms, struck by lightning, infected with disease, being eaten or having their bark stripped off by deer, or chainsawed right down at the base of the trunk. And if you spend a lot of time in the same forest, you often walk past these trees over and over again and get to see how or if they recover from such hardships over time. Now, of course, every part of the tree is important for its survival. It needs branches to reach out towards the light. It needs fruit to reproduce. But from my observations from my time in the forest, the most important thing for a tree survival is having deep, strong roots into the dirt. You can cut a tree right down at the base of the trunk, but if it has strong interconnected roots, it will often throw up new shoots and live on. And it was through this observation that inspired me to use the tree as a map and metaphor for this course. Now, I love using the tree as a metaphor for life, because in the same way, the storms of life might completely shake off the fruits of our self-esteem. It might completely break our branches of love and belonging. But I believe by rooting ourselves in the principles of survival and security, then we are better able to ride out the storm and regrow our Tree of Needs once the weather of life is settled. Therefore, the vast majority of this course is based on practical and applicable skills and becoming self-reliant on a fundamental level in dirt survival and root security. The other human needs are a bit more complex and perhaps a bit different for different people, but we will use this grounded perspective from the dirt to explore and ask ourselves some questions about our belonging and self-esteem. All the while, sky awareness is there, giving us essential skills and practices that allows us to get some peace of mind and stillness in the busy hustle and bustle of modern life. In other words, we will use our skills and survivability, the things that make life possible, to grow upwards into sustainability, the things that make life worth living. So now I've described the map of our journey of resilience. Now let us begin by taking a step into the dirt. Let's go. So I hope you enjoyed that wee lesson from the Resilient Roots School. Trees are fantastic teachers in resilience. Time and time again, they show us that no matter how strong the storm is, the winds of change, as long as you're rooted in the basics, you'll be grand. You'll be alright. So, thanks for watching, folks. See you next week for another deep dive channel. As always, if you want to join me learning more, come join us on Resilient Roots. We do monthly learning prompts and live calls, as well as annual gatherings. We're putting all this stuff into practice. So, cheery bye. Have a good one.